What up, it's your boy DJ Infamous. Talk to me now, smoke with me, and I got my partner, my co-host, my brother. He's back.
I'm back, baby. Wolf of Weed Street, episode 14, man. You know, I was feeling down for a couple days, but my brother, you held me down, man.
I held you down, man.
You held me down.
You know, I was nervous at first.
You did a great job. You did a great job.
I ain't gonna front. I was nervous. You know why I was nervous at first?
Why?
Because when I did my whole intro, I didn't have that Billy D voice to come
from
after.
The rafters. You had that Billy D coming out, huh?
The Billy D ain't there today. The Billy D voice ain't there today.
Yeah, man.
You feeling better?
I'm feeling better, man. I'm feeling 100% better, man. You know, I'm happy that we got a strong team. You know what I mean? I was able to, you know, not be there and you still carry on the legacy for us, man, and keep it going, man. You know, I'm looking forward to seeing them episodes myself.
Yeah, I mean, you do it for me.
Oh, definitely, of course.
So
you did a couple solo episodes?
Yeah, I had to do a couple solo.
Okay. He put like in war, you put the soldier on your back and you just keep going. You know what I'm saying?
Put the wrong strand that day.
Put the team on. He put the team on his back. He
oh man,
put the team on my back.
Good looking out, bro. Good looking out.
The team gave me a pep talk, and we had to go ahead and do that thing. But now, real talk, I always appreciate when you here with me. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, I don't ever want to do them solo.
I appreciate that, man. Well, you know, it feels good to be in Cali.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we live in Cali.
The set is a little different. You know what I mean? If you haven't noticed, you know what I mean. The set is a little different.
It's a little different. You know what I'm saying? We here at American Dope. Shout to American Dope. We here live in LA.
Shout out Al Prophet, man. Shout out American Dope. You know what I mean? We here, you know, not too far from Skid Row, man. You got the Billy D Skid Row voice on him today, man.
Well, welcome to LA and let's cheers to LA.
Let's cheers to LA.
Friday.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
So without further ado, man. Wolf, do you want to introduce our guest
without further ado, man.
This is special.
This is a special one, man.
The reason why it's special because this is our first time traveling outside our studio. We're in Cali. You're our first traveling guest.
You're our first California guest.
I love it. Hey, thank you guys for letting me be a part of this.
So before we get into that, let's you know, whenever we land in Vegas, first thing we do when we touch down in Vegas.
First thing we do, listen, don't even go to the hotel. Don't even go to the casino. Don't even get nothing to eat. Go straight to Harding Cannabis Dispensary. It's the best cannabis dispensary in Las Vegas. Go straight there. We got everything you need. We got the prettiest bud tenders. We got the best pre-rolls. We got the best flour.
Product selection.
Can provide
discounts.
The best cup gummies and the best discounts. And you never know who. It's a who's who dispensary. You never know who you're going to run into. You may run into 2 Chainz. You may run into T.I. You may run into Luda.
You may run into DJ Infamous in there.
I might pull up.
You might run into Sinister Monopoly.
Sinister Monopoly. So that's our special guest of the day. Y'all make some noise. Sinister Monopoly in the building.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all.
Special guest, man. Like I said, man, it's our first episode in California, man. This is special to me because, you know. I'm gonna give you a little background, man. You know, this is special to me because, you know, we like to bring people on the episodes who are members of the culture, people who have, you know, swam with the sharks and wrestled with the bears and made it through on the other side and can turn a negative into a positive. You know what I mean? We had Dante West on here. He was an incredible story of turning a negative into a positive through cannabis. And again, you know, we've searched through the Rolodex. And, you know, we have to present to you guys a story unlike no other. You know, a personal friend of mine, somebody who's been a victim of this war on drugs, somebody who has, you know, done their time, somebody who has, you know, completed their sentence and is out here and has a lot to say and has an incredible story. No other than Sinister Monopoly.
Oh yeah, hey, good looking on that. I appreciate you. Hey, thank you so much.
Happy you here.
Yeah, man, it's a blessing to be here with you guys. I appreciate you, you know, hitting me up and our relationship. It means a lot to me. You know what I mean? Like what you do in the cannabis industry, and you know, I'm glad to be here with you, and that's my first time in you and I meeting, and like. We're in a good vibe and a good thing at the moment. So I hope you guys stay till the end, man, because it's gonna be a good one. We're gonna be lit right now.
We're gonna cover a lot of, you know, I mean, this story and his case is gonna be very eye opening.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know, it's important for me to also say this, like, Hold on, man. You smoking with me today?
Oh, yeah,
you smoking yet? Hold on.
It's Friday.
It's Friday. We smoking.
How's the movie? You ain't got shit to do.
Yeah, you know I got fired for stealing some boxes.
You know what I mean?
Smoke with me, brother. Smoke with me.
Get that lighter.
So, before we get into your story, I hear a lot of these youngsters talking about, they moving weight. I hear a lot of these youngsters talking about they got boxes. They're doing this, they're doing that. Mm-hmm. So, before we get into your story, it's just important for me to let everybody know that's watching. Like, I hear people talk and say, hey, they're the biggest, they're this, they're that. That's all relative. Mm-hmm. To me, and I'm gonna stand on this, and I'm gonna stamp this. To me, you have to be able to change the weather in a whole state. My hat's off to y'all that's doing your thing in your neighborhood, you're doing your thing on your street. But when you can come to a whole state and turn a whole state on, it's levels to this game. Right. So that's what we're gonna get into. You know what I mean? We're gonna get into Sinister Monopoly. We're gonna get into somebody who can come and turn a whole state. Used to be able to come and turn a whole state on. Mm-hmm. Detroit, Atlanta, Los Angeles. So no disrespect to nothing anybody's out there doing. Right. No disrespect. But when you tell me you the biggest, or you tell me you move weight, or you tell me you do this and you do that, it goes in one ear and goes out the other, man. Because, I know what it is to be able to turn a whole state on. And we're going to get into it here with Sinister Monopoly.
Yeah,
no further ado, Sinister Monopoly.
Yeah.
So hold on, this is what I want to do too first. Let's recognize what you're known for as of right now. Yeah. As far as your artwork. And, these beautiful paintings, and I ain't gonna lie, man. I'm online and I'm looking at your work, man. It's incredible.
I appreciate that.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying like the ideas you put into it. Like this ain't no this. It's thought put in idea in detail, very detailed. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm looking at the artwork that's surrounding us right now on the set, and it's like this is detailed. Yeah. This is like this is genius. Like, so let's speak on it. Like, what made you want to get into the art space, and then it's like you got the cannabis intertwined with it. Like, let's break that down for the people that are watching.
Certainly. So, I was sentenced in federal prison to 11 and a half years for cannabis, and so while I was there to help, pass the time, they had a hobby shop, and the hobby shop allowed, you could purchase like painting, like canvas, paintbrushes, paint through commissary once a month. And then we had like a hobby locker. So while I was there, I was kind of like just, trying to teach myself and go through the rough points of being a beginner in anything, right? And let's say maybe Haas would get a locker next to me, and he might paint a painting, and like, it's just too much. Right. And so I overcame that, and I painted for about 7 years straight in federal prison. And all the while I painted, I was kind of like teaching myself and gearing myself up to be, a painter when I hit the streets, and almost like it's a savings account. Like I had 150 paintings at my family's house. Right. And it's like a jump off, right? And I kept telling myself in my head, and I was planning it out, and like some forward thinking. Right. So while I was incarcerated, it just was something to kind of help pass the time. Like in the morning, I get up with the homies, we do our burpees, our workout, and then through the rest of the day, I would go to the hobby shop and then just, shoot the stuff with everyone else around me. You might be next to me and we're joking and laughing, and I'm making art. And so fast forward, I've been out of the feds now 3 years. And since I hit the streets running, I had a couple art galleries that hit me up, and my artwork started selling because of my backstory within, the culture of cannabis.
Right. Yeah. And that's how it took off.
So let's that's
dope. Oh, that's dope because you're locked up.
Yeah.
And there's a million things that you could come up with to do, or what you want to go into.
You could get a degree in the feds.
Yeah, but you chose art.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah. And then I started making edgy art. Like I saw something that was on TV one day about like pop art and the Monopoly character. Right. And then I thought, you know what, and then I started teaching myself about building a collection and building a series and art. And I thought I was just going to do a quick run. You know, as a kid, I was a DJ and I used to get into some writing lyrics and I used my name as like Jason. So I started using Sinister. And as a painter, I just started I was going to build a collection. And I was going to call it Sinister Monopoly. And then it just became so much fun, and I would laugh when I paint something funny. And inmates, I was open population. And if you were an inmate in my yard, you could come up and be like, yo, that shit is funny as hell. You need to do this and paint that.
You just out there painting.
And sometimes I might have like 15 people gathered around me. And I'm just in a moment, just going, listening to my MP3 player and people just, you know, trip. And so, you know, and as soon as I hit the streets, I was in a halfway house in Watts, and Art Gallery hit me up on Instagram. And I was like, let's get with it. And I went and seen this person and dropped them like, it's almost like the weed game. I dropped them like 50 paintings.
That work.
I dropped them a 50 pack of artwork. And he's like, can you show up on Saturday and paint? And I was like, I'll be there. And so that Saturday was the day after Black Friday. So people had already purchased my art, and they came back and they were like, the gallery owner said, man, are you close? When will you be here? And I was like, 20 minutes. And I got a pass from the halfway house. And there was already a line of people, but they didn't know me, but they had purchased my artwork early in the week. Because it's Christmas
and
stuff.
They saw the artwork, but they didn't know it was you.
Got you. And so when I showed up at this gallery, people were like, man, this is incredible. And then I was like signing autographs in a halfway house, like 2 weeks out of prison. And I was like, wow, like this is going down. You know what I mean? Like, so the premonition of my forward thinking before I left, I would tell inmates, like, hey, maybe at one point you would hit me up and say, can you do a portrait of my family? And at one point I told no one, no, I can't do it no more. Because I ended up having to like get into beefs over, you know, people paying me. And then it was no fun. Like for me to paint your family, it's beautiful, but it's not a fun thing for me.
It's not a good expression for you. So that's cool, man. Let's get back to the beginning, man. So let's start in the beginning, man. So, you know, I heard you mention you were a DJ. So take me back to the beginning. Take me, you know, what was your first hustle? What got you into the weed game? Let's rewind to that part and let you speak.
Part of like adolescence and growing up.
Kind of like, you know, when you started, you know, getting into the game and, you know, what was your first hustle?
So I'm originally from what we call here in California, Los Angeles. It's called the South Bay. Okay. Even though there's another South Bay, which is like, you know, Northern Cal, right? Yes. But this is like they call it Redondo Beach, Hermosa Beach, Manhattan Beach. So I went through all my schools in Manhattan Beach. And I kind of always grew up as like, you know, like ditching. Like I was telling you, I had turntables, so I would stay up and I would DJ late night, not go to school. So that kind of kicked off like, you know, not like following the guidelines of where, you know, kids and everybody need to be, right? And so then my dad had got a warehouse we had like, you know, toys. My dad was an entrepreneur and doing pretty well. So he had some dirt bikes and sand rails. And I was like, can I use the warehouse to like start detailing cars? And he didn't really even know what I was doing. So I next thing you know, I took this warehouse we had and I started having like people come through. And now it started like ballers coming through and like growers and people moving through the city, like, you know, wanting to get rim. And so next thing you know, I had this little shop. And this one cat rolled up on me and he was a local grower and he started kind of seeing how I maneuvered and he wanted to like front me packs. So he started fronting me packs and it was originally his.
So that's how you originally got into the game was
having like a little detail shop.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you had and like the neighborhood.
Shop. Okay. It wasn't so much even rim as like car stereos and alarms, but it was like a little neighborhood thuggy, like a little hood fucking car wash.
What year was this?
Man, it was like, what year was it? Probably not even 2000, like 99, you know, it was probably like, you know, like I just turned 50. Shout out to the old guys, you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? To the pioneer.
No, congrats on that.
Yeah, thank you. So, and then I literally was like, you know, working through my dad's entrepreneur. He owned dry cleaners. And so then I started waiting tables and I took my tax return and I got my own warehouse. And it was a little more thugged out. We could smoke and riffraff. We could play poker. And, you know, and so then a grower came to me and he started shooting me Northern Lights.
I remember that Northern Lights.
And I was fucking with it. And it was like fire. Like everything was beautiful, start to finish.
Super light green. Good.
Yeah, it was very not much orange, but very limey. Yeah. And he was all about it. Like he had rules. Like I had a Porsche. He was like, I can't fuck with you because you have the Porsche. He had a minivan. I like
Porsches too, man. What kind of Porsche was it back then?
No, 911, you know what I mean? Always wide body. I had every color, man. I'm a Porsche cat.
I like that.
I mean?
I like Porsche.
We might need to do a podcast on cars, right? So
we do. So Porsches only.
Right?
Porsches only.
So he didn't really want to mess with me because he was very low key. Like literally a white shirt and Levi's. And like if you have Gucci on, like you're high profile. You got to roll like, I can't fuck with you because we need to be.
He was moving that weight.
And then save money for a rainy day.
He was moving that weight.
This cat would go to his grows at like 4 a.m. You know what I mean? Like he was so stealth about it. And it trips me out in today's world how we have Instagram trappers.
Right.
And they're like, verify me, whatever. Yeah. And it's a trip. And the world we live in, I was more like,
that Instagram trap. I'm glad you said that, man. That Instagram trapping, that's a whole new wave, man. Man, I tip my hat to you youngsters doing that shit, man. But
wait until the people pull out.
We got some, we got some old school ways, man. You know what I mean? Much love to you, Instagram trappers, man. Yeah. Sending the videos, sending the menu. But don't let them people. Don't do them people work for them. That's all I want to say.
Let the people. What you just said.
Yeah.
Don't do them people work for them, man.
Market kicked in, my bad.
So, man, you flam me with the Porsche. Dude got the packs, man.
So then I noticed, I think he did a juxtapose, and he started copping like indoor hydroponic from Canada. And then he would roll up on me maybe, and I wasn't moving much back then, maybe like 100 pack. But that 100 pack might have like hash plant, juicy fruit, sugar bear, all these different like strains of that era.
Afghan.
Yeah, and so I could pull up on you. You could be the homie, and I would like even be like, you're like, oh, let me get a 10 pack, and I could literally give you 1 pound of every
10 different strains,
10 different colors, flavors, whatever, right? I was like the ice cream.
You was the flavor guy.
The menu, right? I was like the Amsterdam menu, right? But then some people.
Hold on, slow down. That's a good point because I feel like everybody's like flavors, but shit, we've been having menu. I mean, it's been so many going back up in the hill, up in the day, like. I mean, there's AK-47, Alaskan Thunderfuck, Northern Lights, fucking so many Afghani. You know what I mean? There's so many strains that used to be back then. Maybe they weren't all purple and all, you know what I mean? Had all the color on them. But there was, train wreck. Yeah. I mean, headband.
One that wasn't that good, but would roll just a grip of them hard and heavy was Juicy Fruit.
Juicy Fruit.
I don't know if you know. And then they also had another strain called Jamaican that was like, I feel like it's Juicy Fruit and they're flipping the name because they flooded Juicy Fruit out so much. Right. But Juicy Fruit really had like a yellow color like the wrapper.
How much was the packs back then, man? How much? You talking about 400 pack back then? That was about 4,000.
Yeah, so I might retail it. I might retail it at like a 42, and maybe I even got it at like a 38 or a 35 back then. So during that time, there was this interesting thing that took place, and so I was at this dude in LA, and he messed with like LA actors, like more of like hanging out like he'll help him do the errands, but he was in their mix, right? But also like a weed type of dude. Yeah. And I'm rolling by, and when I would cop from the Canada, we had a grading system where we had it's B grade, which is low, right? An A grade, which is regular, and then we had AAA. So I always told these bros I need AAA, but they're like, you got to take everything across the board.
You got to take that.
Sometimes you could take a B that was a lower price, and it might be a real like a AAA that got like mislabeled, and you're like, I got a B that's a triple.
So you talking about that Canadian shit, man? I remember when that Canadian shit hit the Bay, man. Like them Hells Angels was like kind of like bringing that shit out there, all that Canadian shit, and it was indoor. Like the packs looked good, but it just was like the high didn't last as long.
Is that what it was?
Canadian shit.
Because people would complain and they call it like Beaster. And they're like, oh man, you just got Beaster. And I was like, well, what do you mean? I got like 15 flavors of indoor hydro. Like, what do you got?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and they were like, you got Beaster. So that will lead me to say, like, so one dude, one time, I must have his place up on like Fairfax and Melrose type shit. And he messes with celebrities. And, you know, and so he's like, hey, man, I got this thing called Kush. And normally, I this is back in the day when I was a little more hands-on. I'll roll up with a hockey bag, like 20 pounds, and you might only want like one, but I'm still hockey bagged up. You know, I'm just like that little young cat. You know what I mean? Like wherever I go in the city, I'm moving hockey bagged up, you know? And people are like, I'm like a myth through the city, like, yo, the hockey bag guy, he's coming. With all, you know what I'm saying? You know? And so this dude, I hang out and smoke with him like how we are now. And people are coming by this dude's pad and they're buying ounces for like 600, a pound for like 6,000, 7,000 of this Kush. And I was like, what? Like, you know?
Hold on, is that your first time being introduced to Kush?
In this dude's crib, yeah.
This dude's crib?
Yeah.
Wow.
And this was probably like, I don't know, maybe 2005, 2004, something like that.
Gotcha.
And so I was like, wow, people pay that for this? And like, I don't get it.
Right.
But I smoked it, and I could tell the difference in the high was like way more escalated, right? And so I did everything I could. I was like, yo, and I talked to the Canadians, and I was like, there's this thing going on, man. People, they're buying it for 5,000. And they were like, we don't care if you pay us more. If you move more, shoot us the clones. So now I'm trying to like navigate Los Angeles and say, can you give me clones? Can you give me? Everyone's like, no. Finally, this one dude's like, hey, man, I can get some. They're like 50. And I was like, let me get 100.
Yeah.
I bought 100 Kush clones. I shot them up to the fucking world's biggest motorcycle gang in Canada. They started spreading them. And then I started getting pissed because it's like 9 months. I'm like, where's it at, bro? And then like I would catch a load of 300, would come straight to my house in Manhattan Beach. And I would it would labeled out. And I was like, there's no Kush. And then one day, like 3 or 5 showed up, and I jumped on there and like, yo, that's what I gave you. Because before they were like, hey, that's what you gave us. I was like, nah. Are you? There was another dude in the valley that me and him knew another Canadian, and that me and him like would help each other if we were on a drought. But we knew we flowed hard. Like he had his crew, and I kind of knew who they were. And I was like, are you getting Kush? You know what I mean? And he was like, nah. And then so I eventually cracked. And then it came in like 775. It's like 75 pounds. And then before you know it, like those are gone. And every week it started getting more. So now I'm getting 300, 500, 900. And this just changed my life. Because now it went from these dudes were charging me like 3,200, $3,000. And I'm selling them in LA for like 52. So I could, and I felt bad. Like if I went to high school with you, and you're my homie.
I remember them days.
Like, you're my homie. You might only make $1 on the pound, but I'm making 1,500. And I was like, man. So I go home and I just made like
about that.
50, 100,000, and then the homie just made 500 bucks. You know what I'm saying? I started feeling bad, but I didn't feel too bad when I was pulling up in Harleys and mansions. You know, I just said, fuck it. You know, excuse my French, and just kept, you know, going with it. And then eventually,
the Kush going crazy, man.
Yeah,
the Kush is going crazy.
It got to the point where.
So hold on, man. So you, the shit's coming from Canada. Like, how y'all getting it in? How they getting it to you? I mean,
so we refer to it.
Automobiles.
Yeah. So we use what's called PGP encryption. It's a BlackBerry. We communicate encrypted, and we use like words like TP, which is transportation, and we use jump, like we're gonna jump tomorrow. Like today's Friday, the TP is gonna jump tomorrow, meaning it's gonna cross over from Canada into America. One of the main licks was, and this is like, I'm not giving out game. It's already like, you know, it's been cracked. So it was a cattle trailer. So it had a false bottom. Where you could lift the bottom of the trailer and you could put about almost 2,000 pounds in there. But at the same time, through crossing into America, a gamma ray, they can pull you to secondary. But gamma ray, by law, they can't X-ray livestock.
They can't.
No, yeah. So you gotta just like wave them on and like, it's cattle, wave it on. But then somebody must have said something. So a cattle trailer got pulled over. They pulled all the cattle off and then eventually hit it. But this truck was going like 2 times a week. you know?
Right.
And then it was packaged to where I didn't get the whole 1,700.
Okay.
This was an.
So you almost got two coffins coming, 2 crates coming, man.
This is
and I just
major organized crime.
I'm gonna let y'all know, man. Like, I'm gonna let y'all know. Y'all be talking about them boxes, you know what I mean? So we talking about crates and coffins. So imagine how much the prices were back then.
Woo!
Like y'all be talking about this and that. You know. I mean, a box right now might be what. I mean, today's prices should anywhere from $1,000 up to $2,000. Pounds were double that price back then.
Yeah. I might drop it on you, and it's $5,000, and I just shot you with 100.
I'm just letting the listeners know what the prices were back then compared to what it is now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you talking about almost 2 coffins. You talking about a couple $1 million worth of product. So I just want everybody to be aware of that.
Know that.
Yeah. So cattle trailer coming through. One day it gets clipped. Then we're like, oh man, how do we? These dudes are very savvy with how they do it. There's been like a numbers of ways, and whether you're using like an airplane that lands on water, whether you're using a helicopter to do a border jump, whether you're using like crossing over water on boats. Like Canada gets it popping in that way in that era.
Sure. Right. Sure.
You can maybe even use an ATV 4-wheeler duffel bagged up. So another thing
I heard about people sending stuff just down the river with GPS on it in Canada.
Yeah.
Catching that shit.
Wow. Yeah. There was a new cat that I tried to use.
Back in those days. Yeah. Helicopters, all type of shit was going on back in them days.
I remember using a new guy, and we lost our hop. We call it the hop, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the people caught on to it. So I was trying to get a new one, and I was trying to get other people on board. So we say, can we throw on? So the hop might be like 10 people. The hop, and what we're doing isn't just one person. Right. This is like major, in respect to Canada and the way and the people in the States, we tend to be all for ourselves. Yeah. And we're not like our team and our crew. Yeah. And I respect that to them. They would move in ways of like corporation, And so there was one time where I was like, hey, we're trying to find a new, way across, and we call it the hop. And she's like, oh, I use the boat. Anyways, I was like, let's throw a couple $100 on. And this dude lost it. And he was all worried. He's like, I packed it up with no gloves. And he was like, and it was like, he said it was like floating on the water. So he was like in the middle of America and Canada, and he had a couple $100 packs just floating in the hockey bags. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, that fucking, that's another lesson, youngsters. Make sure you put your gloves and your Lysol on when you're working, man. Another lesson from the wolf, man. Yeah. Make sure you got your gloves and your Lysol
from the postal service. Yeah. Man, they don't even gear up. They're just like,
you're right. Tell them OG.
Hey, I've been in lockdown before, and I'm looking at a dude like, what are you here for? and he's like, oh man, I put a brick in the postal service and it got clipped along the way. How'd they catch you? Oh man, I didn't have they got my fingerprints on the box.
Because you was already in the system, so they got your fingerprints.
Bro, you got to do better than that. And they lifted your
fingerprints off the package.
And he was already been in the feds before.
Yeah, so they definitely got your fingerprints.
Yeah, man. Come on.
So man, you booming the kush, man. The fucking kush is coming in, fucking flying in from Canada. Right. You booming the fucking kush, man. You talking about almost 2,000 pounds a month. It's coming, man. Talk to me, man. What's going on, Sin?
So at one point, the market in LA starts to crash because medical marijuana dispensaries came in, right? And so it tanked out the market. It's disappointing to me now after being released from feds, and I was like, how much is the price of a pound? And they're telling me, I'm like, you gotta be kidding, bro. I used to sell them for $5,000. What's going on in the world? So
that's a big point too. Mean, as much time as you did, how much time did you end up doing?
It was basically 8 years.
So you did 8 years, and so the price of cannabis is just indicative of the market right now. I'm just trying to let everybody know, the listeners know, what the market was back then. You talking about $5,000-$6,000, maybe even higher, $6,500.
Yeah, depending on the town. Like I might go to a new town. Like, oh, I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. Mm-hmm. Oh, this dude's telling me like I'm working with you. He's like, don't say nothing, but I'm charging him $7. Right. And I was like, bro, why are you charging him $7? And I was like, bro, I'll pull up every other week. Like, let's just don't hit him over the head. You know what I'm saying? Don't beat him down with the bat. Yeah. I used to always say, make less, move more.
Right. Yeah. I mean, not everybody understands that though. So look, man, you know, the price of cannabis before you lay down was, you know, we just said between $5,500 to almost $7,000. So when you get out, you know, the price of cannabis is between, you know,
it don't even cover the light bill and the nutrients of the grow.
$1,500 to $2,500. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I mean that's just indicative of the times. You know what I mean?
Let me ask you, if you don't mind, how did you get locked up? Like, how did that? Like you doing all that, then how did it come to an end like that?
Yep. So there was this dude, and I had him kind of like I referred to him as the catcher, and he worked for me, and I paid him a flat rate of $20,000 a month. Right. And so at this time, I was dropping in like Detroit, like Chicago and Atlanta, not so much like New York and Ohio.
So you said the market got slow in LA. That's what you said. The market got slow in LA. Yeah.
So one of the first areas I ever went out of town was Detroit. And so then I used different...
We love Detroit, man. Shout out Detroit, man. So, I love Detroit, man.
So maybe I'm a mastermind, but I'm always trying to figure out how can you transport weed across America without getting pulled over on like the highway by highway patrol. Right. So I try to be clever and, you know, and so first couple times I crossed my fingers and I just gave it to this one dude I was paying fucking 20 grand and he wheeled out like an 80 pack to Detroit. And the whole time I'm like, oh, I hope he makes it. You know, because at the time I don't even know if I had the money.
To the hustle guys.
I don't know if I even had the money to cover the load if it got caught along the way. So now I got to figure out ways to like conceal it. And so this particular person eventually started working with a freight company. And then I had a dude that would make a wood crate for me, like right on the border near like Oregon and Canada. When it would come through Canada, we would catch it in Seattle, Washington, bring it to like Oregon at this point, and like put it in big wood crates. And maybe just like 300 pounds might go to Atlanta. You know, we put it in a crate. And so one day the catcher, he lives in Vegas, but the reason why I have him is because I'm using a big rig. Right. And I don't want you to meet my big rig driver. Gotcha. Even though the driver, he doesn't always even know what's on board. Right. But the freight dude is like trying to like, I don't know. So that's the whole thing is I never really wanted the person catching, you know, the work that's going to distribute to meet the transport.
That's smart.
So he was a buffer, right? And this buffer one time, he was supposed to be in Detroit on a certain time and he didn't make it. And so he flew in like the following day at like 7 a.m. Right. And in the meantime, I dumped it off at like, I don't know, like a trucking fucking warehouse, like a temporary freight place. And it's a fucking
basically the holding place, the whole wherever
it's like a random trucking place.
Wherever they held your freight at because nobody was there to pick it up.
Right. So it's a wood crate. It would probably almost even require, I'm thinking like a forklift possibly, right? And the inside of it's duffel bags and they're sealed up. But anyways, they throw it in his rental van. And back then we always had the suction cup fucking GPS on the window. So he puts that to where he's going with the load. And he goes to leave Detroit, like boom. And as soon as he hits it, like local PD fucking, you know, take him down. Then they take him into like the local DEA, whatever. Right. And this dude fucking, he, in his mind, he's just like, fuck it. I don't know where my drop guys. I don't have he doesn't know them as family. Right. So he throws them out the door like, I'm going to cooperate and fuck them. Right. And so they say to him, like, listen, we know the GPS on the glass where it was going. You can take us there or we're going. This motherfucker dude decides to take them there and drop it like everything's cool. Right. And then they all roll up on the next crew. So he did that, right? And at that particular moment in time, I knew he had been cracked because I follow the load the whole time.
Right.
I'm texting, I'm talking, and his phone was like powered off. And then I hit another, like, we would just call him like a handler of his homeboy in Vegas. And I was like, yo, what's up with this kid, Billy? Like, he's MIA and he's supposed to be catching the work. Well, this dude's in custody, and come to find out he went to do like, he did a controlled drop or whatever. So at the time when I paid him 20 grand, I owed him like 10 grand from the month before. This dude shows up at my house in Manhattan Beach. After all this happened, the people just let him go, gave him back his phone so like he could go home like an hour later. Right. And he shows up like 2 days later at my house, and I was like, what's going on, man? Like, lift up your shirt. Right. You know what I mean? Like, what are you doing over here? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even know you, you know? And he was like, oh man, you know, I'm owed 30K. And I was like, let's get out of here. So I took him to the beach. Right. And we went for a walk, and I told him, leave your phone here. And, you know, I'm just trying to like distance myself. And he was like, you know, I didn't know them, but I know you. And, and I wasn't sure, like, what do I do? You know, I did owe him legit 30 before this had happened. So I was like, look, man, like, I'll pay for your lawyer, but keep me the fucking, like, don't ever talk to me again type shit. Like, leave me alone. Even know, like, I didn't want to not pay him. And then all of a sudden it go and unravel. But in the end, I still fucking, in a roundabout way, I got money to Vegas and had a dude like shoot him money. And I happened to be around in Vegas because I would go to the Ultimate Fighting all the time. And I started seeing the tinted window SUVs all around where I was like trying to pay for dude's attorney to make this, you know, go away and like get rid of this fucking guy. So a few months later, this dude is like paid by the government $1,000, and he drives in from Vegas and he points out where my house is in Manhattan Beach. Damn. And he says, that's dude's fucking crib, and this is what his get down is. And then that just kind of like escalated into like putting trackers on my airplanes and tapping things, and then going as far as to making a fake party. And it was very elaborate.
Make a fake party?
Yeah.
So yeah, we can get so okay, man. So
render. Is there is there a can I grab that over there? Sorry. Yeah. Not to cut it out.
So we can edit that out.
My bad. I even ashed it a little bit, but I don't mind even. Can we get a cup?
Yeah, it's a new cup over there.
Sorry about cutting you off. I was looking at the ash. I was like, I need to do something, bro.
Smoke break.
Yeah.
Let's take a smoke break, man. Brought to you by Circle Cannabis Co. Pull up on us in Van Nuys, man. Smoke break.
Oh, whoa. The Circle?
Tell them one more time. Man.
Smoke break. This smoke break sponsored by the Circle Cannabis Co.
Get the fuck out of here with that.
Van Nuys, California, man. Look us up on Weed Maps. You can order online.
Oh, let me just show the people what Nephew just wrote.
Oh, man. Award winning right there.
We've missed you. We've missed you, Neff.
Award winning.
Over there.
Oh, this one.
Smoke break. So brought to you by Winner's Circle Wonder Boy.
Baby joint up.
Hey, so what's rolled up in here? Tell us about it. What's in there?
That's Birkin.
Talk, man.
Nothing but the best, right? We got Birkins in there.
Genetics, Birkin.
And so look, you know we're gonna pick up at? We're about to pick up.
Maybe if I could just dump some of this in there. Yeah.
No, we're ready.
No, just keep it rolling.
Yeah, just keep it rolling. I just want to pick up.
Are the cups in this frame? Do they need to be out for like licensing or purpose? Sorry, I didn't know I would saved you more.
Oh, you good?
Yeah. You can. Okay.
I want to pick up with you know, basically he already got you to the point. He already got you to the point of him telling on you. So I wanted to. Is that the yacht party before that? Because I feel
it's
like
kind
I
of
missed
like,
a lot.
Yeah,
so, right?
Oh yeah. So
I feel like we
once that dude like opened up the cobweb.
Yeah.
Then eventually, I started seeing feds everywhere I traveled.
They kept letting you work after that, right?
Yeah, they let me go.
They let you work after that. So let's
and they kept trying to put hooks in everywhere I went.
So let's
from city to city. I could see him. You know what I mean?
You know what? Right.
Yeah.
So look, so the dude basically, the dude basically rats on the Detroit crew. You know what I mean? He comes back to you. You don't know if he got a wire on it. You don't know if he's got what on, but you know, the people still let you keep working though, right? So you're still working at that point, right?
It's
Did you just shut Detroit down, or you still working in other states?
It's at this time it's like almost hard not to work because you know we got to pay our bills, right? At this point I'm living a lifestyle. I'm living in $1 million homes. I'm driving nice cars. Like I have to keep up. Right. I'm not like there yet, so I still try to like lay in the cut. Like, oh, do I take a break? I did crazy things. Like I would have like private eyes outside my house. I had people fucking dump trucks come and unload things in the moment. Like, oh, this dude's getting taken down. Like, let's like wipe his phone, you know, encrypt. Like, there's so many things that go along with all this, right? And so eventually I did try to like, you know, you have to keep it going, right?
Did you start any businesses? Did you start any like legitimate businesses back then at all?
One of the things I was doing at the time was I bought like a tear down property in Manhattan Beach.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so it was maybe like 900, 800, 950. Woo. And so
think about that. You talking about $1 million teardown?
Yeah. You tear it down, and then you put up something sick.
$1 million teardown.
But it just so happened when I was like getting into it is when real estate, you know, crashed. Okay. And then as I would travel, trapping around America, I would see it was like real estate was crashing.
So what were some of the states you were working in? You were working in Detroit?
At one point, I want to say it was for sure maybe 11 or 14.
Okay.
Total.
14 cities. Oh, states.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So again, man, like
so I was Fortune 500 on a what was like Gucci on a prepaid.
So like I said earlier, man, like, you know, you talk about, you know, you doing this, you doing that, but we talking about 14 states.
I could drop loads simultaneously in like Ohio, Atlanta, Chicago on the same day.
That's hard.
You know what I'm saying? On the same day.
So we talking about like Domino's, little Caesar, pizza. Yeah. You know what I mean? 14 different states, man. Pizza, 14 different states. Pulling up with the pack, man. Sinister Monopoly, man. We're gonna get into it, man. You know, we're gonna get into it. I know my man came in here with the t-shirt. Y'all don't know, man, but I know this dude, man. Like, you know what I mean? This is the culture. This is the culture, man.
And it was interesting how to like somewhat birth like states that have never had indoor hydroponic kush.
And that's what, speak on that for a minute, because that's what I try to tell these listeners. Yeah. Is that, you know, when you can come to a state and drop that bag and drop that flavor and turn the whole state on, then come on, sit down and talk to us, man.
I remember like
sit down and talk to us.
Like one of the places I would travel to is like Detroit, right? And they were rolling heavy for me, right? Mm-hmm. And the dude when I came into town, I didn't really know him. We were just kind of introduced, friends of friends. And then one time I spent time like I'm gonna tuck in at a hotel and I'll be in town for like a month maybe, you know? And he was like, let me show you where I leave my work. Let me show you where I stay. If anything should happen, you know? And so he would show me around.
He was really trying to build with you. He wasn't on that bullshit.
And it would trip that he would take me to a house and we pull up and it maybe had, you know, like the single family residence in the front and then the garage in the back. And he was like, yeah, I mean like $4,000 for this house or $6,000. And I was like, what do you mean? Like the lumber alone is like, you could never build that garage right now for $4,000.
Especially in California.
And I remember he took me around to the back garage, right? And like on the floor, he lifted up some rugs. And then he had a winch come down from the ceiling. And he hooked the winch up to this big hook. It was like crank, 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 crank. And he opened up and inside the ground, he had like a couple 100 pounds of kush down there. And I was like, good looking out. You know what I'm saying? Like, good job. You know what I'm saying? And so that was just me like bouncing around. And so some of these people, like the very first time I even brought kush into Detroit, I would touch base and say, how's it going, man? Right. What do you guys move? You know, like you owe me maybe 800 or 900 grand, you know, or whatever. And they were like, oh, I moved 3 pounds. I'm like, oh, come on.
Right.
Like you guys are kidding me. Yeah. And so then they came to a UFC in Vegas and I broke it down like this is the Louis Vuitton, this is a Ferrari. And this is how it goes in the hip hop community. Like 2 weeks later, the kush was gone, and then it just started going. Yeah, and then next thing you know, I'm like jumping from Detroit to Chicago to Atlanta to St. Louis to Ohio, and then I finally was like, I told my pilot, I want to go to New York, and he's like, oh, my plane's too small. He called it a putt-putt.
Hey, so hold on, man.
Don't threaten me. You know what I'm saying?
So hold on. You didn't. let's speak on that for a minute. So you had your own plane?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
let's speak on that, man.
You had your own plane?
Yeah. I wasn't the pilot, but I paid for it.
How many people did you fit on that plane?
Probably like 6, maybe 4 or 6. But so it wasn't a whole lot.
It wasn't no seats in that thing. It wasn't like this. This is for the pack.
GTA.
This is a plane for the pack.
Like where you got the seats.
Speak on that, man. Tell them how you freaked it out.
Yeah.
Tell them how you freaked it out, man.
Here's the thing. So we might be like, let's say right now we're gearing up for the pilot to come over. Mm-hmm. And on all these duffel bags, I would take like duct tape and I would write all over the fucking handle, and I named the different cities, like Chicago is Wendy's.
Right.
You know, I forget even Atlanta what it was.
So each state had a Duffy.
Like Detroit was the Lions. Uh-huh. So I had all these duffel bags going to all these cities. Like this is going to Lions. This is going to Wendy's. Mm-hmm. Oh, this is going to I don't know. I want to know what I called Atlanta at the time. I forget, but
probably the Peach, man.
I had nicknamed them all, right? And so the duffel bags had the tape and the labeling. Even when they would jump across the border from Canada, they had tape on them and they were colored tape. And they knew Sin gets the red electrical. Right. You might get the blue electrical. You might get green. Yeah. And then they had a number.
It's my number.
My number was 176.
Color coded. That real work.
Yeah. So when you're getting 1,700 pounds in from another country, it's blue tape number 185, red tape 176, and so on. You know what I mean? And then those packs come in, and this is organized crime to the fullest. We're working with the biggest. Not like just, I'm working with Sean up here. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like
not Derek for real from Blow.
You know what I mean?
We talk about some real shit.
This is like people that are in like a crew, and everyone from the crew, they go 200, you go 300, 400, and they all bring it to the club. Yeah. And then it all goes on board and gets distributed. And these people are killing it. These people own strip clubs. They own energy drinks. They own fucking, you name it. Like it's killing it, and so
you had your own plane, man. How many could you fit in that plane back then?
I know, probably a good 500 for sure.
So about a half a crate, half
eventually,
a coffin.
When the
you can fit 5 boxes in that plane back there. I just want y'all to add that up, man. I told you what the numbers was.
Yeah,
Jose, please put the calculator on here. Add it up.
It was.
Let them know. We talking about at least a Ted DiBiase. You talking about at least $1 million man.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
So this plane, right? I remember it was a Beechcraft.
You remember the model number?
Dual prop turbo. And I was disappointed on the colors. When I rolled up, I was like, oh man, it was kind of like a peanut butter with a red trim.
Talking about mad about the colors, man.
Hey, one of the first times I saw the plane was in Atlanta.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so the pilot would normally come in and he would do everything.
Right.
But this one time he was like, hey, I wasn't able to get a rent-a-car. Can you come straight to the plane? Mm-hmm. And I was like, I guess. Right. And I had already just given him $170 to buy it. Ooh. And said, you handle it. Yeah. And then I would put on like $200 per pound for him to pay me back the $170 because the plane was going to be his.
Right.
Like, even on a hobby, like, I'm going to take my wife out and he drives the plane.
So look, bro. So you brought up Atlanta. That's one of your spots. So you're talking to Atlanta history. Mm-hmm. So bring the listeners back to an Atlanta memory. I don't know if it was your favorite strip club, your favorite wing spot.
Wow, there's so many.
Give us an Atlanta memory. Take us back to that time.
Hey, for those
to where this man was probably DJing somewhere and you didn't even know this man. Right. You know what I mean?
What year did you start DJing?
I started in 96. But I started in Atlanta in 05. So
okay.
2005 was when I started, DJing the biggest and best clubs in Atlanta.
Yeah. Man, Atlanta, shout out to Atlanta because it's like good people. It's like I always tell people, if you've never been, you for sure got to pull up.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? And then I don't think people get it. Like, it's just I had some Canadians pull up on me that were dishing out work to me. Mm-hmm. Infamous.
I'm just letting the camera see.
Oh, okay.
When we stepped up our smoking on this episode.
I remember
we're in Cali. I went by the Circle Cannabis Code.
Yeah.
And was able to,
upgrade.
Yeah. And go to Weed Maps and click the Sky Club LA button and
believe that.
So
get that delivered.
If I can kind of even tell you how we would work. So I happen to be kind of like hiding out in Atlanta because my house had done what's called, what's it called? Something complaint. It's not an indictment, but it's a complaint.
Right.
So the government ran up in my house in Manhattan Beach. So then I was kind of like hiding in Atlanta, and I rented a house on Lake Lanier.
Right.
I rented a house up in like Midtown, and I was just kind of like laying low. But
nice place to lay low.
Yeah,
nice place to lay low.
Yeah, exactly.
And I couldn't help, but like just the city itself was like so much fun. So I remember taking the Canadian there, and as part of like what I'm business, it was like a representative for the brand, right. And he came in, and I was having, I think, a problem with a big load that had came through, and it wasn't like a good load, and it wasn't moving, and the prices were crashing. But he'd come in, and because at any given time, maybe with these people, I might owe them like $3 to $5 million on work they would front to me.
Damn, they was dropping.
So like a representative from Canada came to Atlanta because
I guess that would be about a crate, a coffin each time. So you're talking about $3 million some dollars each.
Hovered around. Yeah. The most it ever got to was 9, and then he said, "Let's hold off like this week and bring it down." You know what I mean? But I never had.
Let's hold off this week.
Let me just.
Let's hold off this week.
Hey,
niggas can't even sell an ounce in 30 minutes at the strip club.
I'll just tell you, I was like the goose that laid the golden egg. I was the golden child with these guys, right? So I never had to zero out.
Yeah.
I never had to zero out. Infamous. It was an open tab.
Yeah.
They might say, how much money do you have in hand right now? I say, oh, I got 1.7 million. Okay, shoot it. Tomorrow we're jumping. We got another fucking 3 million. And they just kept shooting it. And I would never go, oh, my bill's 0 and I'm paying 100%.
Right.
The tab was like, oh, I might get it down to 1 million, but then we're dropping again and now it's 5 again. Yeah. I get it down to 3 and now it's 5, so they just kept
feeding you that work, man.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even know. Sometimes I would get a list come through like, oh, tomorrow we're jumping, and it had all the different strains. And then we talk in codes. We do all these different things. We use numbers instead of alphabet, and so it was just it was like hard and heavy, like a corporation just moving through the states. I forgot where we were going on that last question.
So you didn't tell you when you. So they raided your house, and that's how you got busted?
No, they raided my house with a criminal complaint. And I was able to like lay low for maybe a month or two. And I had a lawyer while I was in hiding out at Lake Lanier. Right. And my lawyer hits me up one day and says, hey, man, I got a call from, I think a lawyer, like a prosecutor or something. And they're not going to pursue any charges. After they already raided my house and took like a Porsche, a Harley, like $200,000. No actual narcotics.
Gotcha. Did they find any cash?
Yeah. He took cash and cars and stuff like that. And then so I was fighting to even get that back. And the lawyer calls me and he's like, and I was like, are you sure, man? Like, because I was always scared to travel to like catch a Delta flight home. I was like, oh, they're going to just pick me up at the airport.
Yeah, because then
you know what I'm saying? Like, do I got to take my own airplane fucking ride home? And
you thought you had like an active warrant or some shit?
Yeah, like, because they came to my crib, right? I thought it must be.
Right.
And so I was hitting this lawyer and he kept saying, just fly into LA, it'll be okay. And I was like, dude, no. Like, turn yourself in. And I was like, no, I would never. You know what I'm saying? Like, I said, listen, bro, I could go underground and live my life underground and still make shit tons of money. Why would I ever? And I was like, I never trust these people to turn myself in. Like, this is like, we ride till the wheels fall off. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? And so eventually, like, even that lawyer had came to Atlanta to meet with me because I had never met with him before, right? And so he even like green lights me to like, do my thing. Right. One of the first things that popped off was it happened to be Cinco de Mayo, and I was flying to Cleveland, Ohio. Mm-hmm. And the guy in Ohio, I made about $200,000 a month off profit. Mm-hmm. He would take like a box of time, but he never wanted to meet the pilot. He always said, oh, Sin, I want to meet you.
I wouldn't want to meet the fucking pilot either.
Right.
Yeah. And so I would always go to Ohio myself, get a room, the pilot would get a room and he would just give me his room key. So it was easy peasy.
Right.
I tell homeboy, oh, I got the room key, bro. And we roll up. And then sometimes I would help him load it on the elevator with the luggage cart. You know what I'm saying? So at this point, this has already happened on my house. Like, I've been raided. And so, of course, I'm very aware of my surroundings.
Right.
And so I rented a private jet. I told a dude in Atlanta, can you rent this for me in your name? I gave him $14,000 to fly to Ohio and then fly to back. That was the fucking trip. Yeah. I pull up with another homie who came in from like near Canada, like Seattle. And I was trying to turn my business over to him. I was like, from now on, I want you to work with this dude in Ohio. And then so this guy in Ohio, when I touched down, I said, hey man, pull up on me. I'm at the hotel. He was like, man, I didn't even tell him what happened to my pad. I was like, I'm out, bro. Like, you know, like from now on, you're going to meet somebody else. And he's like, I'm not ready. And he was like, nah, I can't do it, you know?
I'm not ready.
And I was like, man, like it's over for me. I got to go, you know, like my time's up. And that time, my other partner who left Atlanta on the private jet with me, he just happened to, our hotel was near the mall. And he goes walking around the mall. So I was like, after dude left, and the pilot hadn't made it in town yet. So me and him was chopping it up before the work landed. Right. And I was like, yeah, come at me at like 6, we'll come through. And so I go catch up with this dude in the mall, and I've noticed like 4 dudes that are just kind of like around, you know what I'm saying? And the way they carry themselves, they seem very government, you know? Right. And so I told the dude I'm with, I was like, yo, check these dudes, you know? And we're walking around looking at stuff. And then I decided, like, let's hit the door to the mall in Cleveland, Ohio. And as soon as we hit the door to the parking lot, my friend hits up like a tobacco boom. And like those dudes like leave. And it's weird because we called them on their bluff. Like they had nowhere to go. Right. And they hit the curb and they didn't hit the asphalt. They were just like, where do we go now? Because dude's just smoking. Yeah. And we were dipping. Like, and then we all of a sudden we're just like, okay, now what, you know? But, and then, so they didn't know where to go. We eventually went back to our hotel room and I'm on like a higher floor and there's like, and I always know the cars to look for. There's a Ford Explorer backed in and I could see the dude's pulling up a walkie-talkie, but he's not raising it to his mouth, but he's pulling it to the steering wheel dash. And I told my partner, like, check that out. And he went downstairs and he was like, I think I see this. So then I was like, hey, plan change. And I went to a different hotel. Right. And back then I had like a car service, you know, but we didn't really have Uber, you know, but I took a private jet and I had like a limousine, you know? Yeah. And so I bounced to a different hotel and I told the pilot, yeah, go to this new hotel. And in my mind, I was like, you know what? I need to just see it through. Yeah. Even if I'm just going to get cuffed up right now, like I'm here, like, you know what I mean? Like I need to just keep going. I'm not like, I don't know why, like if that's a sociopath or whatever you call it, like maybe I should have tapped off and said, you know, like I'm out.
I felt the heat.
Yeah. But I kept going. And so I met up with dude, pilot gave me the key, me and the dude. And even walking through the lobby and I was just thinking like, they're going to come. And we shot his car. And I eventually got on the PJ and went home. But that dude, the next destination where he went to drop the pack, fucking raided on, right? But I didn't know because I'm on the fucking like PJ. Right. And then so I didn't even like, I started hitting him like the next day and his like prepaid's turned off. And I'm thinking like, does he just use another one? And that's kind of how he's real secretive. And then eventually, like a week later, he's like, hey, man, I got pulled over. I had like 60 grand. They took that. They were at my spot where I dropped that. And they took that. And I was like, nah. And so here, check this. When the private plane came back into Atlanta, it was Cinco de Mayo. We're like thinking, okay, we did good. I'm drinking on the PJ. And before I had like my notebooks and all the weed, we got rid of it all. And I get pulled over by a white Tahoe with fucking lights in the grill. There's nothing else but a white Tahoe. And I had, again, a driver. Right. And this dude knew me. He drove me all the time in Atlanta. So he knew, like, he's like, yeah, my driver. Like, I would take me here to go there and move around the city. And it's funny. I used to sometimes have $1 million with me And just be like, this dude would pick me up and I have like just mad fucking briefcase in the back. He's like, what the fuck is in this fucking like this suitcase? It's heavy as fuck because $1 million in cash is heavy. And so I was kind of on the run. So I always kept cash with me like that, you know? And so anyways, we get pulled over by this white Tahoe. And they try to separate each person, like the driver, my boy, and then like you're my boy, and he has a Seattle, Washington, and I'm like, yo, just tell him like you're my girlfriend's husband or whatever, like fiance, like brother-in-law, like whatever, you know what I mean? And they're like, where are you coming from? And I told them, tell them we went to Cinco de Mayo at the fucking airplane hangar or whatever, you know, like not that we just flew in. And so we didn't know, I don't know, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so then the dogs came and they started asking weird questions, you know, like very in tune to like what I was doing in that time. And I had these cats that I would pay in Atlanta, not only to move packs for me, but to maybe go buy me a boat, buy me the Range Rover, rent me the crib. And so I hit them and I was like, yo, I'm on the side of the road over here. And they even pulled up on me. He's like, oh man, I see him. And then next thing you know, there's like 4 more, you know, and they're all like unmarked, you know, vehicles. They eventually let us go. And I was like, yo, that shit was not fucking normal. You know, people used to just, oh man, you're just paranoid, but I could see him all the time. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, man. So that was before the yacht party, or that was after the yacht party?
So, okay. So let me try to think of the yacht party was.
That was Miami.
Yeah, the yacht party was. So they lured me to Miami. Okay. Some dudes I was dropping work off into Atlanta, the guys that would also help me move through the city. Like, so I would try to move through any city, never putting my credit card down, never, you know, putting my name on anything. Choice, yeah. So I would hit you up, be like, hey man, rent me a room, or, you know, whatever. And so I'd move through these cities with no name. And so, I guess what were we talking about? ATL.
Yeah, we were just talking about your guys in ATL, and then you know, I didn't know if that was before. Or after.
I think we were talking about the boat party.
Yeah, we were talking about the boat party.
So the guy in ATL, he had unfortunately been infiltrated by like somebody that even did what's called a control buy, where they bought. He had a window tint shop like near Buckhead, and I think they did like a 10-pack. Bought a 10-pack of Kush from Homeboy, and they had it all on video. They were at a shop, wired up. So they had the hooks.
They sent the Undercover in there, and they got it on
so
camera.
He
with the buyer.
Was very admired with me because he knew like I was like this fucking like El Jefe cowboy coming through Atlanta. You know what I mean? And that's how I found this dude. I took a girl's car to get tinted. And he was like, hey man, you need some weed? And I laughed at him. I said, you're probably selling my weed. And he was like, oh, for real? I was like, what do you got? And he just tinted out this Beamer, right? And he brought me like some stress. And
that was a nice one. I like that. I like that. He said, you're probably selling my weed. I like that one.
Yeah, because he came at me after I paid for the window tint. And I was like, man, like I respect, you know, he was trying to do it. And then eventually him and I connected and I started like shooting him or whatever, right? And so he starts to invite me. He was like, hey man, so-and-so wants to meet you. They roll hard and heavy. And then they start to use the word, which I hate. Do you want this? They started using the word cartel. Oh, he's big. And I said, well, whatever you need. Like if you need 200 more, I'll give them to you. Like I don't need to meet you right now. Like I'm okay.
I don't need to meet him.
He kept insisting. So then they kind of navigated the boat and they were like, man, they're having a party. And it's his one-time year, and he celebrates his crew, you know, come through Miami and just hang out. And I was like, even like, what the fuck is this? You know, like, you know, nah, I'm okay, right? And so I finally just said, you know what? Like, I haven't even been to Miami in my life at this point. I decided to go. The whole time, there's this informant in Atlanta. And he's wearing a wire because I thought, you know what, I'm going to drive from Atlanta to Florida because I like to lay off, like even traveling, you get on the radar through fucking the system. And so I was like, I'll just
only about 9 hours.
On the road, this dude wore a body wire the whole fucking 9 hours.
Wow.
And so I'm fighting my case, and my lawyer's like playing it on his laptop, and I'm like, wait a second. I was in the car, and I was like 9 hours. And I remember telling my lawyer, I was like, what a piece of shit. And my lawyer goes, he did the right thing. And I said, you fucking kidding me? I said, listen, bro, we put the food on the table for a lot of people that are good people that have family and kids. And this guy took that away, man. And he was like, oh, like he disagreed. And I was like, and I told him, you know what do? You play golf with the prosecutor? And he like chuckled at me. And I was like, get the fuck out of here with like these people, you know? Right? And so, now, once again, I always kind of lose my direction. I get a little misguided where I'm going. So then we're going back to the party. So he's telling me to come through, and he keeps describing this person wants to meet me. And the time the dude's name was EJ. And I finally said, you know what? Yeah, I'll go to Miami. I pull up, and then they're even saying, we'll pay for your hotel. We'll pay. And I felt somewhat insulted. Like I do sweets, and I do fucking, I'm everything's top of the food chain. Right. And I was like, no, I'm good. Yeah. And I'm like, no, thank you. And so then they say there's a party on like whatever night it was, let's say a Friday. And they sent over a limousine. And then we all have there's like 4 of us, and we're all in different rooms of the hotel. And I want the biggest, I want the presidential suite. I'm in Miami, like I want to go, right? And so then they put us in a limo, and I could kind of somewhat tell, but later on, no, the limo wasn't ready at the house, like all mic'd up with the cameras, whatever. The limo kept going around the block. We got to this bunk ass like party. They had, the backyard was on the water, and it had a yacht. And the one guy was acting all goofy, going like, yeah, that's a $5 million yacht. They kept using the $5 million. And then he kept saying like, if it wasn't for you, man, like I would have never made this year. And I bought the boat. Like, congratulations to you for hooking me up in the game. And I was just like trying to observe it, you know? So when I first got there, it was like a house party, but yet they had a yacht in the back. And, when you first get to a place, maybe if it's a house, everyone kind of like navigates around like the island of the kitchen to get drinks, get to know people. And all these people started talking about these areas that I dropped in, like, oh yeah, I'm from Seattle, I'm from Vegas, I'm from Detroit. And I was like, you were kind of weird, but nobody's really like Florida. Right. But it just seemed weird, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so then later on, some belly dancers came. And I was like, belly dancers, interesting. So everybody kicked it in the living room. Some belly dancers came, and then they had a pool, and outside the pool was the yacht, and there was the ocean. And so then they had like dinner is served out on the fucking and where the pool was. And this just goes to show you how elaborate the feds are. This is a federal production. Right. And so
this whole party was set up by the feds.
Yeah.
As entrapment for you.
Yeah. And I'm like just looking and just tripping. And they said, so then they're like, let's go out on the boat at the sun's setting, you know? And I was like, okay then, you know? And so even there's like maybe 10 people, you know? There's like a few girls, maybe 5 girls or 4 girls or something, right? Myself and the 3 or 4 dudes that I went with, I guess 3 of us. One was an informant and 2 other cats. Yeah. We eventually make our way on the boat. We eventually make our way on the boat.
The informant don't count.
Right. So we get on the boat, and so like we're on the boat, and it's sunset. And I told one of the homies, I was like, yo, man. Even back then, I didn't know to use the word feds. I just used the word cops. And I was like, yo, man, these are all cops. And again, he's like, you're paranoid. And I said to him, let's watch. Let's smoke a blunt. And I bet nobody smokes with us. Right. You know?
Right.
And he was like, basically like that. And then we all kind of like made our way to like the bow of the boat. And it was almost like, and I remember back then we had like the brand company, like True Religion, the Horseshoe. It totally reminds me because that was popping in that era. Yeah. These people were like horseshoed around me at the bow of the boat on like the 2nd or 3rd floor. And so he rolled up a blunt, and I'm there with a couple dudes, and I'm like, you want to smoke? No. You want to smoke? No. Smoke? No. But yet these guys are like dope dealers and a cartel. And I was like, oh my goodness. And so this is so weird. And like, even when you go to parties, you would think sometimes people, they go in the bathroom, they might do stuff.
Powder they nose.
Yeah,
do whatever they're going to do.
No one's really doing
do whatever you do, man.
Right.
Yeah, but yet you guys are claiming you're about the life, but I'm not seeing it.
Ain't nobody snorting no line off nobody titty. Ain't nothing going down.
And so even like the next day, like the one night, the dude's like, hey, let's not even talk business tonight. Like, we'll talk tomorrow. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. Like, what are you even talking about? Yeah. Right? He's like, let's just have fun tonight on the yacht. So then the next day they pushed and pushed to come meet me for brunch. And I was like, no, you meet him. No, you meet him. And you talk about it. And then the guy kept saying, I got to catch a flight. He finally hit me up and I'm at the pool with my homeboy that just flew in from LA. Yeah. And we're just going to tear up Miami because, I'm like, I even told my homeboy, like when I made money, I was like, don't pay for anything. Even if you're with me, like I'll pay your rent for 3 weeks. You know what I mean? Like don't even, like forget about it. Yeah. So he came to spend time and we were going to tear it up. And I thought when the dude kept saying dude had to leave and he at one point was like, where are you at? And I was like, oh, I'm at the pool. Right. And it's still early in the morning. This dude EJ rolls up and again, he's got the full body wire and he's like, yeah, you want to talk to me? And I was like, not really. Right. You know what I'm saying? But then he goes to sit down and he sells himself as a money launderer. Okay. And at one point I'm like, nah, I'm good. Like my lawyer does that for me. And then that opened up a whole thing where now they're like checking out my lawyer and man, so these people, they just really like took put their hooks into me and
they set up a fake
wanted
yacht
to make
party.
An example out of me. Right. Yeah.
They set up a fake yacht party and then dude even came by the pool. That's crazy, man.
The next day. That's playing crazy, the part, man. Like straight just.
That's crazy.
You know what I mean? Like straight out of a movie, like Donnie Brasco.
So what was the charges you ended up getting? Was it trafficking charge?
It was money laundering. Okay. And then in the end, it was 1,800 pounds of weed. Okay. And then
So what's the federal guideline on that? Because I know that's over the.
Everything is based on a number.
Okay. And so speak number, on that for a minute because that's another thing I want everybody to know and pick up on, man. Like. When you're out here doing your thing, man, again, we're not here to judge you on anything that you got going on, but just be very conscious of the guidelines, man.
Sure.
It's a big difference between 500 pounds and 1,000 pounds when you're talking about federal guidelines, man.
So for instance, like mine landed at what's called 32. Right. But at the day of sentencing, the government pushes for what they call enhancements, right? And so let's say you used to keep a bunch of work at your house and they rolled up at your crib and you got a gun. Yeah. But I don't know the gun was there. Now all of a sudden at my sentencing, they're like, oh, well, Sin had a gun. I was like, what are we talking about? He had a gun. Right. Yeah. Oh, it was over at Haas's place. And because Sin's work was there,
they put that pistol on you.
And I was like, what? Yeah. And that's 4 points. So then your 32 becomes like 36. And now 36 starts to double in years. Now you're becoming an extra 5 years. Which is your
point system in effect. Just explain to them. That's the point system.
Yeah. So as you get, the judge bases your sentence upon a number chart. Uh-huh. So 32 is 10 years to like 15 or 18, if I'm correct, right? So then the next one is
which is the minimum that for those charges.
For 32.
Yeah.
And then as you bump it up, like let's say 34, now you're pushing like 18 years to 25, right? And so one of the craziest things, a part of my case was you meet with what's called a pre-sentencing report, and the government recommends to the judge what your sentence should be. Yeah. Let me just tell you what the government recommended my sentence should be. First offender, never arrested in my life.
No violent charges.
I only had a driving or wet and reckless in my entire life.
No murders or nothing on any of your cases.
My suggested time was 30 years.
Damn.
30 years. And I was like, my lawyer brought that to me, and he was like, here's your pre-sentencing report. And I was like, well, what's pre-sentence? And he's like, oh, it's a recommendation to the judge to overlook. Because he told me when you're going to meet with them, just say yes, sir, no, sir, and be polite and tell them they want to ask you what school you went to and where you grew up and your family. And I'm like, okay. And it was like, they just want to know your background. And I was like, okay, then it is what it is. And it's a recommendation. When that thing came back and it said 360 months. And I was like, this is like a murder, bro.
Yeah.
360
Not to mention, I got caught in Atlanta and I was on a no bail. And I remember being in this place called Lovejoy. And it was
Lovejoy.
Yeah. It was pretty bad, right? And then they had these dudes on the news that like were two brothers and their girlfriend, and they went to like different states. Armed robbery, shootouts, whatever. These dudes got like $1 million bail. And I'm like, bail. How am I here?
Over £1,000.
With no bail.
Over £1,000.
You know what I mean? It's craziness, right? And so I even I had a high-powered lawyer in the beginning, and I tried to do what's called a bond appeal. And I said, okay, I'm going to go up a second time. Because the first time the judge was like, the lady at a public defender. Right. Oh, my car broke down. I was late. She didn't even know my name. Like she was all bad. So then I hired this dude. We call those
a public pretender.
Yeah.
Just so you know, we call those a public pretender.
I had given a dude like $50,000, and he was like a CNN guy where he would jump on and like give out insight as a lawyer or something, right? And so he's representing me, and so at one point, he just starts to charge me way too much. But anyways, I went to a bond appeal, and then the government comes in. They even have like the lead agent. And then he's like, as time goes on, we're finding more. We're finding there's starting to be cocaine involved. And when they said the word cocaine, bro, it's like when a pin drops and there's like no silence. And I was like, oh, man. Like, because I knew as part of my thing, I started like trading. And these dudes were shooting me cannabis, and then I started shooting them like massive kilos. But that was through like encrypted phones, and nobody knew, and we like stopped. So this was kind of like off my radar. I was kind of like a BMF
Just give me about 2 seconds on that one, man. So you had, at the time you was going crazy with the Kush. You know what I mean? You had already caught the case, but you start motherfucking trading. You start trading work for
Kush.
For Kush. So you was trading them back.
Instead of giving them US dollar, because
you could just
they
give
didn't
them
have
bricks.
in Canada, they don't use they use like a different European money.
Right.
So they didn't even want our money, especially on exchange rate. So they would rather have bricks of yay, and they would take that and still add a bunch of money on that.
For sure.
So almost like the Kush was nothing. Even though they were growing it and shoot it. Then they would take, I would shoot them.
That was just something for them to use to turn it into something bigger.
So for instance, they would buy 150 kilos from me for maybe like 25,000. I would shoot it all the way up to the border, and they would jump it over and sell it for like 38 to 42. So, and then they were getting so many, wanted me to meet more people. They wanted me to meet basically like the Scarface of Canada. They're like, we found another golden child. You know, I was like, oh, wow. Now I'm doing both, and I don't want to be Escobar. I'm a skateboarder surfer. I want to sell weed. You know what I'm saying? And they kind of like pushed it on me to help them wire transfer their money, and then it just became something bigger than itself. You know, and so
so that was your charges, man. You had money laundering. You had cannabis trafficking charge. And what else? That was it. All right.
What's the amount?
And then in the end, it was 1,800 pounds.
Right.
And then I don't even know the amount of money laundering. So the day of sentencing, the government tried to come in and they said, oh, my lawyer had brought me down some papers, and I had all these scribbled notes from like journals, right? And it was more of like just money. Ledgers. And so they turned a ledger that was a money ledger. They said it was pounds. So I was on the books for 1,800. So now all of a sudden they're like, oh, it says 14,000. Dude, they came in and said to the judge, oh, we want to charge him now with 14,000 as opposed to 1,000.
And it was $14,000 to somebody else.
Bro. And the judge and my lawyer came and told me that through a fucking gate, like an hour before being sentenced.
Wow.
And I was like, no. Like that is not a pound. And he's like, well, that's what they're going to start off with. That's what and the judge, thank God, he said, you know what? I'm going with what he signed. And I signed a plea agreement. And so eventually then the government came in and said, hey, this guy's the leader. And they called it a intertransnational organized crime. Right.
Wow.
And so they said, we want him to get like an extra 4 points. So on top of your 32, then it becomes a 36. So I think like a 40 or 42 is 30 years or life. So as you start to approach, you know, those higher numbers, like a 40, you're looking at like a 20, 25 year sentence.
Yeah. Damn. So shit, man. So
and so I kicked it with people there that had like crack in their hand, this much, bro. Like, and I was like, "What'd you get? 25 years." But dudes could have like 10 kilos and get 25 years.
Right.
Like, how does it even make any sense?
Sentencing guidelines back then, man. That shit's crazy, man. So basically, so you get sentenced to 8 years.
No, my original sentence was 11 years, 6 months. Yeah, right. Just under 12.
And where did you end up doing your time at?
So I was sentenced in Atlanta, and then I served most of it in what's called Terminal Island.
Okay.
San Pedro, not far from here, and it's in LA County.
Okay. How much time you spend in Atlanta?
I think it was about 19 months.
Okay.
And then some I did at like the castle.
Okay.
And it was funny, like when they would let us out to the yard, you'd see a bunch of like roaches of weed on the ground. And it was like my first time in prison. You know, I was like, damn, look at the yard. They got like roaches out on, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like they're still up there, you know? And then now I think they have the camp across the street where people get cell phones and all sorts of stuff, you know?
Yeah, so first time offender.
Yeah.
You're sentenced to 11 years. You know what I mean? No slap on the wrist. No, we're going to give them a suspended sentence and give them some probation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
11 years. I know that shit was crazy.
Yeah, even like when I made it back from sentencing, the guard, and they maybe do it to everybody, I don't know. He said, hey, do you want to go back to what's called the shoe or the hole because you're so emotional of the time that you just got, or do you want to go to like general population? Right. Are you okay? And I was like, oh no, I'm fine. Just shoot me back. You know, like I don't need to be in like solitary confinement thinking about, you know what I mean? But when
about 11 years.
Right. When you first get it, like looking forward, it's so much time. But once you're halfway in it, you're like, oh, it's nothing, you know? Right. And then once you're at like, oh, I'm at like 6 months, 8 months, it almost just felt like it wasn't anything, you know?
Yeah. Out the 11 years, what year did you start to paint?
So I probably started painting in maybe like maybe 2015 or somewhere like that, 14, something, you know?
What year you got out again?
I got out in 2000. Must have been 18 or 19. I guess it was 18.
18.
Yeah, so it's going on like 3 years right now.
Oh, okay.
But so in the feds, you have like case managers and counselors, and every 3 months they'll just randomly call you in, and they're like, "Are you programming?" And you're like, "What's programming?" Right. And that's where you're taking classes, right? And they're like, "No thanks." Like, I'm not cool with people that put me here.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like, no, I'm not going to take your classes and program. And he's like, well, you know, it looks better on your file and I need you to program. And so I was like, man, I guess I got to take a class. And I happened to notice there was oil painting. And then everybody was trying to verify that the dude painting the class wasn't a sex offender. Because I was like, who's the dude teaching? He was an inmate. And I was like, I don't know, you know? And then that dude was even like trying to explain the crime. And he was like, oh, I'm here for fraud. And everyone was trying to check his papers. And you just don't know. Even like a class, like I can't take a class, it's a business class, and have like a sex offender be the teacher. I'm not going to do it, you know? And so then I started seeing the guy was like, oh, you could put your name on a list. And you could get a hobby locker where you could order paint and brushes and canvas. So then I did that, and I was like, and I just stuck with it, and I painted for like 6 years. Other than I went to the shoe. So that was basically like a commissary item you could put on there. Yeah, it was somewhat commissary. It had to go through your like monthly total, but they had what's the hobby shop. You'd fill out your form. And you would turn it in, and you could spend $300.
That would be something good that we need to do with the Last Prisoner project.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
If that's something that we can, when when we had Dante on here, the hygiene
by
stuff
art supplies
is by art supplies.
Right.
It's something that we can add on there.
Incredible!
Project
it's huge for people to be out of that mind and be able to be creative while they're still there. And so, while I was there, and to kind of like inspire people, I have inmates that hit me up all the time that say, you're out there making a way for yourself. You're self-made. I'm out here as a felon, and I'm afraid like all I have is these jobs that they don't want, or jobs where you're going to get like a background check and they're scared, and they're like, hey man, you're like proof that you can still get out of prison and make a way, and
use your creative ability and just be a creative and earn off of that, man. That's big, man.
Or even just to knock down that stigmatism of I'm a felon, there's no opportunity for me.
Yeah, right. No, that's true too.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. And so people say that all the time, that like, oh, that's, it's inspiring whether they want to be a painter or whether they're an electrician. They're just saying, like, man, like I appreciate it. Like a lot of people, they're not going back to like, slanging again.
Right. So you got the art supplies, man, and just paint the picture for a minute for me. You know what I mean? Like you're out there in the pod in front of everybody, and you just fucking painting, and just everybody's just out there just tripping off of it, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. So it's almost like anybody, like maybe like say
it's one of my favorites right here, man. The Starbucks.
Yeah, this one's a real popular. Like that's a.
We need to put a circle cannabis co logo right there, man, and put her in some burnt orange.
Exactly. So this one I do remix for brands. Okay. Like if other brands have stores, then I blot out.
Tell them your information and your Instagram, your new Instagram, Instagram page, man. So, let them know, man, so they can order your artwork.
Yeah.
As you see here on the set is his incredible artwork.
Yeah. I appreciate that. So recently, my original, I had an Instagram, and unfortunately, like a couple weeks ago, it was hacked. So now I'm trying to like build. We're going to call it Build and Destroy. We're coming back. Give them a new Instagram. Give them a website to order your artwork. Normally, I go as the art alias is like Sinister Monopoly, right? And so that account was taken over. So now I use Sinister Monop. So just a little bit abbreviated. If anybody knows how to get the account back, let me know. But for now, we're on the show, we're just we're trying to get we'll start fresh and
we're building that Sinister Monop account up, man. So everybody, all the Smoke With Me followers, Winter Circle followers, everybody who follows our movement, man, hit up. We're gonna put it on the screen, man. Jose's gonna put it on the screen, man. At Sinister Monop is his new account, and give him the website too, man, for the art.
Yeah, so I'm not the best at like getting my website super dialed in. It's always like a work in progress, but you can go to sinistermonopoly.com.
Okay.
Or even, like prior to my account getting hacked, I sometimes have people that help me through my messages, but they can reach me on like Instagram and I do like communicate with people and people say, oh, I have this vision of my brand and can the guy be doing this and in this front of this car or this person? And, we work on a basis where, if there's no timeline and I can fit it in, and maybe I have like 3 or 4 custom paintings I'm working on like this month. If you hit me up, I said, oh, well, maybe at the end of September, I could start yours. Cause right now I'm doing like 3 or 4. Right. People don't realize sometimes when you build an original painting, the process, they think you just paint it the one shot, but it requires like 3 to 4 painting, coats. You have to eventually get to where you want to go. And so sometimes you could put in a few weeks, and sometimes people want to add their brand, like, oh, let me do that. And they act like I can do it in an hour.
That's a big point though, man. You can get your own Sinister Monopoly custom pieces made.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Follow him, hit his website.
Thank you guys.
DM him, man, and you can get your own custom pieces made. So, you pick the skills up while you're in the feds, man. You're honing your skills. You get, you developing these designs, man, and then take us from there, man. What happens next?
Yeah, I've kind of did some like forward thinking, before I was released. And people, I think, would like, I rubbed people the wrong way. Let's say you're an inmate and you approach me like, man, can you make me something?
Right.
I would tell them no. Yeah. And then they started like rumor around the yard, oh, that guy's saying he's an asshole because he shut me down on making a painting. Yeah. So I'm kind of like that. And so, but I told myself I was going to make a run as a painter when I got out, and I already had all those. So I'm sitting in like a halfway house in Watts. And the funny thing is, it's called Marvin Gardens, which is a monopoly thing. Wow. And then you got to give them even like 20% of your paycheck when you're at Marvin Gardens. Wow. And I remember having like a monopoly, a bank account already. And they were like, Marvin Gardens, monopoly, like what's going on right here, you know? And it was a trip. Even the halfway house stopped me from doing art shows. I'd have to get permission. Right. And I did like one or two. And my counselor was like, how'd it go? I was like, man, it went good. I sold some stuff. Like I didn't know I wasn't supposed to tell them.
So you're in the halfway house.
Yeah.
So okay. So you get out, your art's popping.
I'm already doing like 2 art shows.
You got 2 weeks out. Your shit popping, man. You're in the fucking halfway house. You're not even all the way fucking free yet, and you're doing pop-up art shows. You got lines out the door. People don't even know. Do they even know you still halfway down there in custody at this point?
No, like nobody really knows, but they're like starting to hear or they see it where they're purchasing it and they're like digging it. And then, you know, so, and I was like, wow, interesting. And then so one time the dude at the halfway house goes, hey man, you can't go. This tattoo place was doing like a local art exhibit at the building next door. They rented the building next door and they were going to have a thing and some bands and stuff. And they asked me to have like a bunch of art. And my counselor goes, oh no, because we're considering that you're owning your own business. And I was like, wow, you're trying to get me acclimated back into society. Right. And you're telling me I can't
won't let me be a functioning member of it.
That's crazy. So then I was like, well, let me fill out my form so I can go buy like clothes over here at the mall, and I'm gonna get a pass to go to fucking church. And I finagled my way and went to the tattoo show. You know what I mean? And like did whatever, but you'd have to call them when you get somewhere. Like, oh, I'm at the mall right now. Yeah, I'm looking for my shoes.
I'm looking for my Stacey Adams.
And then you got to have like receipts. Yeah. Like, oh, I bought these. And so I would tell my pops.
Prove that you were there.
I would tell my pops, hey man, run over here and give me a business card. Across town, I'm going over here.
Dope, man.
Shots on how to move when you're in the halfway house.
Shots on how to move.
Moving in the halfway house. So shit, man. You get out, man. You got the art popping. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I think more than anything, people liked the story, like the culture and the genre. Yeah. It's not so much that I'm a great painter. Like it's the story. Yeah. It's, you know, people appreciate and they feel like maybe I'm dealt an injustice. Right. And then some people use, oh, it's a legend, like to pioneer, like to pave the way for where people are at today, you know? Right. Like, so I mean, it's not so much that I'm a good artist, but that's it.
The way I look at it, man, anybody who went and did their time, didn't tell on anybody, kept that shit solid, man. You know what I mean? You need to be celebrated, man. You know what I mean?
That's why we glad that
you're really.
I think people even bought my art because of that. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Just to represent it, like, good looking.
Besides the point that you're a really good human being, man, and a really good artist. I mean, shit, man, like these dudes can't even keep it solid over a traffic violation.
Yeah, so, you watch it on First 48, they fold in a minute.
Yeah. So I mean,
you know what I mean?
So you definitely have taken the art world by storm. You know what I mean? Like. I like the cannabis influences, man. Most definitely. I
like to get out there and just be disruptive and just I want to be like synonymous with cannabis when you think of, brands like a Cypress Hill or a Snoop or, when anything with your guys' brands, I want people to know, like, as a painter, like, oh, that's like a Cheech and Chong type of painter. Yeah.
For sure. I mean, you do murals. I know you've done murals on dispensaries. I mean, you're working on something for us, but I know you also, that's another thing that you do is you do murals. You do billboards. You do cannabis related stuff.
To me, it's like I want to get it's what I do, right? And I always want to like be grateful. Mm-hmm. So I try to say like, man, even though I might not be like making that old trap money, you know, but I still want to just be grateful and say, well, at least, you know, I can take today off. I can go to the beach. I'm self-made. I don't got to go work a job because I'm a felon. It's some labor, some shit I don't want to do. That's a good point. Know, and I just, you know, and I was just out here, whatever, like pushing forward, you know, like everybody, right? And so.
Yeah, man. So, your story really is definitely one that, you know, for somebody to come from, you know, basically pretty humble beginnings, man, like, and take it to where you took it to, man, 14 states, you know, mixing and moving, you know, eating off 14 different plates, man. 14 plates, 14 states.
Yeah, right. Man. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
eventually, the day I was arrested, it was 3 airplanes active at that point.
Okay, shit.
Yeah, it grew.
Okay.
Yeah, it grew.
So you had 3 planes.
Yeah, and it started with the one.
Did the pilots ever tell about
Oh, yeah, bro. The pilot, I was at like I was trying to maneuver, and I was in Chicago when it wrapped, and I was like, where'd everybody go? I called this a lawyer, and he punched up a bunch of names. Yeah. Boom, I seen dude was on an indictment. And eventually he popped up on me and he called me and I was like, bro, you're on this indictment. Like, what's going on? And he's like, oh, I'm good. And I was like, for real? Because he was supposed to land in Detroit.
I'm good, right?
Yeah. And I was like, well, where's the pack? He had 400. And he was like, oh, the plane broke down and I wheeled it to Chicago. I'm here now. And I was like, what you mean you wheeled it? Like, where's the 400? And he's like, oh, man, I pulled it at this mechanic shop. And he had this weird stories, right? And so my family knew of another dude who got picked up in Chicago. That dude gave word to his wife, who then called my family and said, hey, the pilot's in custody. And that was like a double down. So my family called me and was like, yo, we call the pilot OG. OG's in custody. And I was like, okay.
Right.
And then so dude hits me up. And at this point, my passport was in Atlanta. And I was in Chicago. I wheeled it from Chicago. I had a dude drive me. So in case we got pulled over, I wasn't driving. I pull up in Midtown trying to grab my passport. And as I'm like, I guess I'm even kind of lost now. I'm leaving Chicago. Where are we headed with this one again, man? My gosh, these stories, they're just never ending.
Man, you said you was said you was
I was trying to change my passport.
Trying to get your passport.
Oh, because the pilot been cracked.
Right.
Yeah.
So and I knew, and
he said he didn't tell, but
he was like, I'm willing to keep going because he was supposed to. He had a plan. He was supposed to go to Detroit, Chicago, like Atlanta, New York.
Right.
And so that was like his whole thing.
He was working the hell out that boy.
And it was just like the 400.
Stops, boy.
But some of that was just to get like money and stuff, right? And so he's like, I can still.
You had to picking up bread too?
Yeah. And then sometimes we refer to it as just wheel it if you're not going to have the air. So you might land in Atlanta and it's a hub, but I might just wheel work down to North Carolina.
Yeah, you might get a car and drive shit.
Why jump the plane from Atlanta to North Carolina where you just wheel it, you know? And so we do stuff like that. Shout out to North Carolina and Greensboro. Ripping the
shout out to Carolinas, baby.
Yeah,
shout out to Carolinas.
Still lovely.
Still lovely in Carolina.
So I go to get my passport, and then I remember having all these phones, and I had another house in Lake Lanier, and I used to love that place, man. It was so much fun. I had a boat on the thing, and beautiful. So I go there, and the pilot, like, I remember driving super far away and calling him, and he answers, and I was like, so what's going down? And I already knew. He was in custody, but he was answering the phone. And I was like, how are you answering the phone? And I was kind of like calling him. And I started telling him, because before this, he used to say, oh, I'm military. I was in, what's that, like Rambo shit, like Green Beret. He was like, I got ice in my veins. I'll never fold. He used to tell me that when he would pick up the packs and shit, you know? And I would be like, okay, cool, man.
He said he'd never fold until that pressure hit.
Yeah, I'm Green Beret.
Numbers hit.
Yeah, and then so he tells me on the phone, when I told him that, I called him out. Like, I thought we had something where you don't do this to people. And he was like, oh, man, they took my wife into custody and they were booking her, and I'm just trying to help myself. And he goes, so I'm out on an OR. And I was like, oh, really? And
your own recognizance, huh?
Yeah.
On a trafficking charge.
A pilot that's already been under investigation for 10 months. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so, and that's when I was like in Lake Lanier, and I was like, hey, man, okay then. And I remember taking that phone, and I was like in some shitty mall, and I just threw it out the window and said, my life is fucked. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's over, you know? And by then, it was a matter of just trying how underground. I already was somewhat underground because my house had already been pre-rated with the criminal complaint. Now it's official where the crew is like falling, and now the pilot, like, so my world is at, you know, coming to an end. And I remember even owing the plug, I think like $6 million, and they're like, what can you turn in right now? And I was like, bro, sorry to say, like, I'm turning in nothing.
I'm on the
run. I'm not like trying to take your money, but like I don't know
what the fuck is going on.
And I was like, hey, can you get me over into your, you know, into Canada?
Get me to Canada, yeah.
And so I was actively researching Guadalajara or Canada, because I was still getting like the dudes that were giving me the birds. They ran like certain parts of Sinaloa, and like you could have anything. You could have a stolen car down there, and you're gonna get pulled over, and it's nothing. He's like, what do you want? Go through Texas, and they're like giving me the rundown, and you know, before you know it, these cats in Atlanta. I had them rent me a place. what's the mountains out there? There's a mountain area. Stone Mountain. So I got a crib in Stone Mountain, bro, like, and the dude comes to pick me up early. It's like, he comes at midnight, and it's literally like 2 or 3. He's like, let's just leave now. And I was going to go to JFK and take a PJ to like out of the country, because I had my passport, but I thought, man, I'll take a PJ out of New York or some shit, right? Dude, I leave this Stone Mountain place, and these fuckers got an APB on the red truck that dude drove me in, and they go to the Stone Mountain house, and they're literally like, it's like pouring like cereal out on the ground. I heard like they're literally like an hour behind me, and because the dude in the truck, he eventually drops me off at like one of his houses, and he calls me, he goes, bro, they pulled me over and they went to the Stone Mountain. He's like, there's an APB on my car. And I'm like, what the fuck, you know? And so I eventually called this other girl that I knew, and she didn't even know that I was like a trapper. Like, I told her I was a real estate type dude. And she was like, well, I'm in St. Louis, but my neighbor has the key to my house. You can, you know, go there, and I'll be back in a few days. And so I just hung out there, and I tried to actively like plan my country or where I was moving. And then eventually like GBA or GBI and every organization, bro, the IRS, the fucking DEA, every government, Homeland Security rolled up on me, helicopters, you know, the whole entire works. To where I was in what was it? It's like Fairville or something.
Fayetteville.
Something like that is where the actual house was. Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah. So, man, shit, man. I know you got. Give me one of your craziest stories from the feds, man. Give me one of your craziest stories from the feds.
Craziest stories.
And was you eating spreads? Give me. What was your solid meal that you ate, man?
I pretty much don't even go to the chow hall because it makes it feel like you're incarcerated.
Right.
Like I make my own meal. It feels like I'm just with you and we're the homie every day. Like I'm not going to the chow hall to look at people like sex offenders and shit, you know? So I definitely almost never even went, right? Other than it was like a special meal, like, oh, they got fucking chicken patty. It's the good one. You know, but other than that, I don't really go.
Okay.
But, you know, like, I don't know that there's, let me try to think of some stories. Maybe an interesting one was like, you know, I ran with like my race when I first pulled up at Terminal Island. And there was a dude who was kind of like a Bernie Madoff. Out on the streets, and he was like claiming to have stock investments, but he would take your money and he would go buy a Ferrari with it. you know? And so,
Ponzi scheme.
Yeah. And so he started running this on me in prison and I didn't realize it. And he was coming up on Christmas time and he had like 2 or 3 kids and he's like, make my kid this painting, make my kid that painting. I got you on commissary. Before you know it, I'm doing my thing and I'm fucking making the paintings, getting them out to his family before Christmas. Yeah. Now he owes me like $1,200 or $1,400 and in prison, it's a lot of money. And I was like, hey, you know, like how much commissary list can I make you? Right. So when people owe you in prison, they buy you groceries and you say, give me a store list. And so he owes me $1,200 and he's like, I said, how much of a store list? He's like, make me one for 40. And I was like, the 40? Like, what am I going to do with 40? You know what I'm saying? This same person he didn't have swag, so he was corny, right? And in order to fit in, he was purchasing fucking drugs around the yard from even other races, like the amigos and stuff, right? And he was giving it to the whites to try to fit in more. Like he came in originally, his shorts were high, and then all of a sudden he's sagging and his socks are pulled up to the knees. And now he's like a gangster look when really he's like a corporate dude who's in a new environment trying to be a chameleon. And so he hits me off, and at the same time he has a drug debt with other races, and I can't take it anymore. You know, when you owe me this much money, I have to like act on it. And so me and him start to like, you know, fight about it. And we're in like a small TV room with like 4 of us. And so then it's like my cell is an actual jail cell where you have the bars and I'd have an inmate. And my cell like steps off into my TV room. I had it really good, right? So we had like 2 TVs and we listened to headsets. And so me and him start to get into it. And then his cell is on my block and he's in my TV room too. And there's only like 4 of us. So now it's like we just fight about it. And I feel like I don't even want to be around this person no more. And it's like when you wreck your car, it's never the same. You could fight about it or try to figure it all out. And there's no cameras in this prison really other than like at the guard's tower. And we're on the 3rd floor. So you can like do anything with anybody and you're never going to go to the shoe and whatever, right? And so one of the homies comes to me, like a Southsider, and they come to my cell and they're like, hey man, I heard you're trying to move. And I was like, yeah, because I don't want to be on this block no more because dude's in my fucking thing and he owes everybody and like, fuck this dude. And he was like, well, we got like 2 or 3 empty and you can, you know, run with us. And so I was like, you know, and I was like, I respect that. And I was like, maybe I'll come down to your TV room later. And so they have like same thing. They got like 3 TVs, but they got a bigger room. Maybe there's like 14 homies in that room. And I go in and I said, I'll come down, and I sit down, and every unit has a shot collar because when they come in, if a sex offender comes into your jail cell, you might tell Haas like, yo, he's the shot caller. Like, yo, this dude's a shot. And you go talk to the people and you're like, yo, man, you need to get the fuck out and we're not going to hurt you, but you can't be over here and you need to find a place to go. And so there's people like navigate it, you know? And so I went and I was in the TV room with these dudes and like, man, we looked you up. We know you're good. And I already been in the prison for maybe a year, a couple of years, whatever. And they do put his arms out and said, you know, you're with us, you're our family, you know, like we got you. And I was like, man, that's love, bro. And then it just like was tripping to me, right? And so I said, let me think about it, you know? And I went back, and then the other dudes were coming at me going, well, hey man, we're thinking we'll just squash everything if you guys get out and do like some burpees. But they couldn't regulate people. Like even dude had like a $5,000 or $10,000 debt to another race. You normally take them and you beat them up in the shower, like below the head, and you regulate your people because they don't do that, you know? And so I thought about it, and then I said, oh, you know what? I'm gonna roll with these cats over here. They got an open cell around the corner, and they seem cool. Then the whites were like, no, that's not good. Don't do that, man. And I was like, man, it's just not the same. Like I gotta do me and roll. And I remember once I started hitting like the yard, the rec and everything, and we play softball. I would play on the White Sox, and now I'm on the Dodgers. like people wouldn't even look me in the eye no more. And then eventually, as time went on, and I was like a Southsider in there for a few years, everyone else realized like, oh, it's the one white dude that's with them, and it kind of like dissipated. Yeah. But it was something that, you know, I had to experience almost like in a high school way, like everyone like got rid of me because I wasn't in that crowd, like the cool crowd. But then I had to go another route, and you know, but so eventually what that kid did that owed all the money, he did what's called a check-in in prison. And you put what they call a letter, but we call it a kite. And you put it in on yourself. And you say that like you're in harm or someone's out to get you. And then the guards will just show up at your cell. Yeah. And so the guards just showed up at his cell one day. And then he never comes back to the yard. He goes to like the shoe. And then they move them to like another prison, or some shit. Like in a whole nother yard. And then that's how these dudes room. Is they rip off people and go to the next place. And, you know, it's like everyone's a mark sometimes in society, you know, like they don't know how to like not rip certain people off, you know?
So, yeah, man. So, you know, again, you know, like, you know, one of the main things we like to do with the platform, man, is kind of shine light on the positive things you've done.
Facts.
You know what I mean? So
and the journey.
Yeah. We definitely talked about the journey, man. You know, so let's shine the light on, you know, you definitely you know, been through some negative things in your life, and you know, you've come out on top. So let's shine the light on some of the positive things that you're doing now.
And then, you know, one thing to touch on in that aspect is something that like I learned from you, because as I'm getting like acclimated back in, is I wasn't aware of some of like the nonprofits that are out there today, trying to help people that have fallen like myself, like cannabis, you know, nonprofits, right? And so, you know, I'm trying to get involved with those people. I want to do what I can, and maybe there's people that watch your, you know, the today's show, and don't always know, you know, like. Sometimes people think like in prison, like they don't give you like shoes, they don't give you shampoo. Yeah. You know, they don't. Sometimes they'll feed you, but the food might not be good. So you could go to bed hungry, and you all it could be is like a 75 cent, $1.50 soup. Yeah. You know what I mean? Where hey, you know, you can get with one of these nonprofits, or they can have someone that they're trying to help them get out, man. Like, and he wants to file a motion.
Yeah. Well, we definitely, and I'm glad you brought that up, man. We had Dante West on here a couple episodes ago. Shout out my brother Dante, man. He works with his brand, actually, West. Part of the proceeds from his brand goes to hygiene and to prisoners, stuff like that. So, you know, I want to get you a part of that program. You know what I mean? The Last Prisoner Project is also somebody that we can put you in contact with, but we want to put you definitely, you know, get you in contact with them, man.
I love it.
Just speak on a few.
You want to encourage people to be like, look out for those that have fallen. Write them letters. You know, put $20 on their book. Accept a phone call. Like it means a huge thing when I would wait in the mail line, and maybe I'm getting a letter. It comes on the mail list. Oh, you got mail today, and I was like, oh man, cool. Yeah. And it just means those little things that are huge. Even like a pen pal, you know, like it's those things. But there's just a lot of things that we got to bring awareness to, like with the cannabis. And you sparked that in me. And I always knew leaving that I wanted to be a charitable person. And if I can somehow be involved, like even tomorrow I'm working with another organization that's similar.
Tell me about that.
So
tell us about that.
This one's called Freedom Grow.
All right, shout out Freedom Grow, man. We'll put their information on the screen, man.
And, so they have a good thing that they do, and they're going to be at the Wisdom. It's the venue. It's the Wisdom.
The secret session going on tomorrow at the Wisdom.
It's within the culture. They have a lot of cannabis vendors there, CBD vendors. They have cool NFT drops and DJs. They have like performers, you know, rappers pull up. So they're just trying to, and they sometimes do it twice a month. So they work with Freedom Grow, and they give them a booth. Cool. And what I do is I lace up like how we do here. Is I bring artwork down, I throw on my jumpsuit, my superhero, my orange
carrot suit.
I earn the stripes. You know what I mean? I got the stripes, and I put on the orange suit, and I sell artwork there. And then if it you know people do purchase our work, I give back like 20% to their company. And I try to get people to sign up, to be part of like Freedom Grow, and just to bring awareness of, I think it's like a couple hundred inmates. And I think there's 8 inmates total that have life in prison for cannabis. Can you imagine? There's crazy. 8 people that, have life. And it's just messed up, And so
definitely want to bring awareness to that, man. Definitely want to bring awareness to that. But yeah, man, it was a pleasure having you on, Sinister, man.
Man, my pleasure. All you guys.
Man, you gotta put that story in the movie or something.
Yeah, man.
That's a movie right there.
He actually worked on the script. We do have a script available. We have a script available.
I was glued the whole time.
Yeah. I have so many life experiences. I could even divide it up, and I've even come up with all these other scripts.
We're gonna do a part 2, man. We're gonna need to do a part 2, man. But it definitely was a pleasure having you on, man.
Most definitely.
Thank you guys. Likewise.
What you've done as far as your journey and what you've been through and turned it into a positive. Your artwork, you working as an activist in cannabis. You're about to drop a cannabis brand. You being very active in the community, man. So it definitely was a pleasure having you on,
definitely.
Man.
Salute you.
Smoke with me show
Always,
episode
14.
Episode 14, man.
That's right.
Episode
14 Smoke With Me podcast, and we out of here.